My name is Daniel Svensson. I work at a Swedish company called CellaVision. It's a medtech company which mostly works in the field of hematology. So the documents that we are responsible for include instructions for use for the products themselves, service manuals that are used by service technicians who, fix them when they break or do yearly maintenance and these kinds of things. We do installation guides and IT configuration guides because our products are also networked and they fit into hospital IT infrastructure. So we sell our products globally, absolutely. And we have support for about 30 languages today that we translate our instructions into. For products like ours, they are, quite expensive, and it's a big investment usually for hospitals. Instructions for use is one thing that people look at before they buy a product, so it becomes really important. Not only that the products themselves are easy to use, of course, but that the documentation that goes along with it is, clear and accurate, of course, and all of that. Then, of course, it's the regular usage, right? You need to be able to find information when you need it and where you need it. So it needs to be structured appropriately and available when the customer needs it. And finally, being in the business of medical technology, there are regulatory aspects as well. So some of the documentation that we produce, it needs to include specific information about how the products are intended to be used, and how they are maybe not intended to be used, and those kinds of things is also very important because the products are, approved for a certain kind of usage. The biggest challenge with publication and things like that we face is that once we have released information, it's harder to update it. The initial release is pretty, I won't say easy, but it's easier at least than updating existing content. And that can be for a whole host of reasons, including, regulatory reasons. So that makes it all the more important that it's right from the beginning. One of the main challenges was a kind of turnover in staff. Not through any real problems or anything like that. It was more a case of we needed more people. And so we brought in contractors. And they would be assigned to work on specific things, and then they would leave and we would get another contractor. And so it was becoming a little bit difficult to keep control of the content because, as you know, when you have a number of individuals working on the same content, different aspects of style and whatnot and personal preference, it seeps in, and at that time, it was starting to get a little bit out of control, I would say. There was also definitely an element of increasing workload as the company grew. There was an increasing level of complexity with the products that we dealt, and also with the content that we were required to provide. So we had more different types of content that we needed to create. We had different variants of similar products that we needed to manage. So all this, I think, combined into a critical mass of sorts that was getting ready to overflow if we didn't do something about it. The main problems we were looking to solve is certainly keeping things consistent again. And that can mean a lot of different things as well. It's fine to have a style guide on paper, for example, but nobody can remember everything that it says in a style guide. And so if you have to keep leafing through a document or something, it's going to take time, of course. Terminology is even worse. If you have 1,000 terms, maybe, nobody can keep 1,000 terms, fresh in their memory. So there needs to be technology support for these kinds of things. And even on a more basic level, we wanted to make sure that our content creators could focus on the things that they're actually really good at, and not have to worry about playing editors, you know what I mean, looking for spelling mistakes and all these kinds of things. And that's also true for the subject matter experts that would review manuals that we send to them. They don't want to spend time commenting on things that we should have caught in the first place. But it's really difficult for a human to nail all of these things in a good way. No matter how good the writer is, there's always going to be things that slip through the cracks. The main reason we picked Acrolinx to work with, I mean, sure, there was an element of personal experience. I'd worked with the software before, absolutely. But I also, I knew there was great customization support, for example, with the guidelines and all of that. The list of integrations that Acrolinx supports is very long, including, importantly for us, Madcap Flare. We have a great working relationship with Fodina. They helped us a lot during the startup phase. They were very responsive to the requests and requirements that we had. And even now they continue to support us with, we find occasional problems and things like that. It turns out usually that it's our fault, I want to point out. When it comes to translations, I think Acrolinx has helped us with both accuracy and cost for sure. I think that mostly comes down to consistency of the source. The quality of the source content is really high, then it makes it so much easier to translate it, both when it comes to things like questions you might get from translators, but also things like one of my favorite guidelines that we have in Acrolinx that nobody understands why I love this so much, but we have Acrolinx flag when people use an apostrophe inconsistently. So you get the different shapes of apostrophes and quotation marks and things like that. Those things matter in translation. If that's the only thing that is different in a sentence compared to another sentence, that apostrophe means that we pay for the sentence, where otherwise we could have had it for free if it was already translated before. And we have guidelines for that in Acrolinx. The main benefits that we're seeing with Acrolinx, definitely I would bring up again consistency. Consistency is king, obviously, especially for me who works with translations, right? So that's great, and I think it gives the writers that we have more confidence as well, knowing that Acrolinx will tell them if they're using passive voice, for example, when they shouldn't be, and all these kinds of things that are easy to forget about. They know what it is, but it's easy to forget about. The terminology is another example of this. Since implementing Acrolinx, I would say that we definitely are able to produce quality content faster, and our writers can be more confident. That means they can express themselves more freely. And it also means that we have an extra layer of security against any regulatory issues that we might face and those kinds of things. So yeah, we're really happy with it.